Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sai Ram. Sai Ram. So we are into the penultimate chapter, first verse. The Guru Shishya Parampara has reached the pinnacle, the climax in this chapter, where there is a sharing by the Shishya on his absolute state. A few lines from Chinmaya on this chapter we will glide along, and then we will get into the first verse. The chapter is titled as Grandeur of Self. All seekers are not able to immediately gain a vision of reality because of their inherent mental unpreparedness for the revelation. But perfect students like Janaka understand the words of the masters to be pointers on the road. And as seekers, they have mental subtlety to lift themselves in the directions so clearly pointed out. This process of hearing the teacher and at the same time lifting our mind into those marvelous heights of perfection is called the process of listening, Shravana. The Upanishads are never tired of indicating the importance of the process of listening. To a true student, revelation of the self comes instantaneously during his intense listening in rapt attention. Here, Janaka has accomplished the two listening, and hence, when his master has concluded his previous discourse in this chapter, the student rises to mold in words of his self experience. Communication of a joy is a way of intensifying and enlarging the bliss experienced. Janaka exclaims over the grandeur of his self, repose in the self, for his master's satisfaction. Beyond the ordinary goals of life, Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, beyond all metaphysical speculations, transcending all the concepts of time and space, far removed from the turbulence of life and death, fear of life and death, samsara, dwells the majestic glory of the infinite self in its own unique majesty. The Tejobindu Upanishad endorses the translation of the verse 8 says, those who have purified their minds and cultivated the alertness necessary to comprehend the self, they alone apprehend the pure Brahman. Not others who merely prattle the dialects and quote the letter of the Shastras. The first verse is a perfect continuation of this Tejobindu Upanishad verse because it prattling the dialects of the Shastras, taunts of adverse opinions. The first verse directly glides to the first verse. What does the first verse say? तत्त्वविज्ञानसन्दांशम् आदाय हृदयादरा नानाविधपरमार्श शल्यात् धार कृतो मया. Using the pierces of the knowledge of the truth from the innermost recesses of my heart, I have managed to extract the thorn of adverse opinions. Ekam sat vitra bahuda vadanti. Though the truth is one, scholars speak about it differently. Now, this difference, let us look from two perspectives, from the perspective of Acharya and from the student's perspective. Each Acharya, if you take the classic example of two disciples under the same master Shivanandaji Maharaj, one Swami Krishnananda and one Balakrishna Menon, who became to be known as Chinmayananda Saraswati. The background of both these disciples, the sanskaras of both disciples, the attitude of both disciples are totally different. Okay. So, the master, apart from the general discourses which he would give to the august audience of his disciples, he has to go get one to one as he messages each one of you from the dawn to dusk on one-to-one basis for year after years. The Acharya has to get one-to-one, one-in-one with each student because each disciple has a different background brought along with him or her over several births, not only this birth. So, different ways of interpretation, different ways of explaining, different approaches and different way of expression is required apart from the general discourse. This is from the student's perspective, from the Acharya's perspective, as well as the Balakrishna Menon and the Swami Krishna and the Acharya. They had different approaches. So Shivanandaji Maharaj had to go one to one. From the Guru's perspective, he had to teach, express a few words might have been spoken in the Ananda Kutir to Balakrishna Menon. Those few words were appropriate and meant only for him, none else in this universe, apart from the general discourse. This is okay. And then when the Acharya himself, you say, Shivanandaji Maharaj or Ramana Maharishi, from the Acharya's perspective, or Anandamayima, or Paramahamsa Yogananda, they also have gone through a different sanskara, different route, different path. Though the end goal is the same at the end of the journey. So the routes are often different. The expression one to one are often different to each disciple. Ekam sat vipra bhavata vadanti. A student of Ramakrishna, Durga Charan, later on came to be known as Nagamahashay. This particular he has told before also. This example is given by Swami in his discourse on Bhagavad Gita way back in the 80s. Daily discourse on the Bhagavad Gita. Peter Drucker brought in that book Bhagavad Gita. It lies still at his home, almost with the pages gone, but still he preserves, because 20 rupees sitting in that queue line outside on the sands, Satya ran and grabbed that book for 20 rupees. This Durga Charan, he had to take care of his family, his parents, his spouse, etc. And he had to be in the Grahastha ashrama even till Ramakrishna Paramahamsa decided to part. Till the time he was in the family way, and he has to tread the path of love, emotion, affection, etc., and more sensitive, more sentimental. Okay. For him, the master tells, remain in the world like ancient King Janaka, unattached. Your life will be an example of how a householder should live. The master knew he has to lead the life of a householder till the end. So he taught him how to be in the world, how to be in the family. Durgacharan thus lived a life of detachment, of surrender, and attained liberation, even while serving his family after his master passed. Whereas to Narendra, with different perspective, different sanskara, who was never to get into the Grihastha ashrama, the teaching was different, altogether different. The same teaching could not be given to Narendra, who went on to become Swami Vivekananda. The approach given to him was to break, to tear apart the clutches of samsara by expanding himself. His identity far beyond the limited identity of BMI of both himself and his master and all other beings in the creation. The totally approach were different. The end goal was the same. We see that game where in the magic show, in the circus, a tire is burnt and it is burning on the tire with the fire, and one jumps through the tire. We have seen, right? The approach given to Durga Charan was to slip through that fire of samsara, escape, become little, surrender, melt in devotion to God and Guru, and slip through the clutches, the fire of samsara. The teaching given to Narendra was to expand himself as unlimited, inextinguishable fire to such an extent that this small fire of samsara, gets extinguished in his fire at that very instant. See the difference. But the ultimate experience of both the disciples is the same, exactly the same. Janaka says, I have not got caught into diverse approaches, diverse paths, diverse arguments in philosophy, and have instead experienced the truth in the innermost cave of my heart. Taittiriya Upanishad Brahmananda Valli. Satyam Yanam Anantam, cave of my heart. Adi Shankara says in Viveka Chudamani, verse 60, Shabdajalam Maharanyam Chitta Brahmana Karanam Atah Prayatna Jnanatvam Tattvanyais Tattvam Atmana. Commentaries on philosophies constitute a thick jungle in which a roaming mind may easily get lost in its own delusion. Chitta Brahmana Karanam. Therefore, true seekers of Brahman should, through right efforts, prayatna jnanatvam, come to experience tattvamatmanaha, experience the real nature of self. So many different theories of so many things are found in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Upanishads, in various commentaries of various masters depending upon their past. Okay, vasanas are gone, but the approach, the upbringing, that without their deliberation, without they don't get into vasanas, but the approach, the command of on English of Chinmayananda would not go when he was given the Diksha as Chinmayananda Saraswati. The English command will remain with him till the end. Inimitable style. Okay, so it would be different for different masters. Let us look at few. The creation theory. In the in the creation of the universe blog post, if you go and see, there are some 17, 18 different concepts, at least 15 different concepts or different approaches given by different masters in different treaties has been covered. We will take a few of them. Even in the Taittiriya, Aitareya, Brihadaranyaka Upanishads, all the theories are different. Big Bang. We don't have to get into it. You all know. 15,000 million or billion years ago, there was a massive explosion. From there, the matter began, the universe began, space-time began, then only. Vedas say, before the creation of universe, Lord Vishnu is sleeping in the ocean of all causes. His bed is a giant serpent with thousands of cobra-like hoods. While Vishnu is asleep, a lotus sprouts of his navel. Inside the lotus, Brahma resides. Brahma represents the universe which we live in. And it is this Brahma who creates life forms. In the Rig Veda, it says the universe was created out of the parts of the body of a single cosmic man, Purusha, when his body was sacrificed. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it says, in the beginning was the Brahman, and through heaven, the earth, and the atmosphere, and the 3 seasons of summer, rains, and harvest, he produced the entire universe. In the earlier Vedic thinking, the universe was created by Hiranyagarbha. He interpreted as the golden embryo, or by Prajapati, who was born from the Hiranyagarbha. As per the Shaiva scriptures, at first the ultimate truth Brahman was Shiva, without any birth or death. Vishnu is formed from the Vamanga of Shiva, or the left body. So many theories are there. And then comes the emphatical declaration roar of the Aitareya Upanishad, where it roars, Om Atmava idam eka evagra asit na anyat kinchana mishate. In the beginning, there was but the absolute self alone, nothing else was. Beginning here is not the beginning within the realm of time and space. Beginning is prior to creation, prior to time space. Only self exists. How many theories? Now, various schools of philosophy. Nyaya, Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa. Nyaya follows all a radical, rational, logical approach. It believes that gaining knowledge through the 5 senses is the sole way of attaining liberation. Sankhya, we know, dualistic philosophy where Purusha and Prakriti both existed together. It is not that Purushottama, as per Bhagavad Gita, was the first he existed or that existed. No. Sankhya brings in this qualified dualism where it says Purusha and Prakriti both were existing together. Yoga philosophy introduces the methods of discipline of body and mind, and it is believed that practicing Ashtanga Yoga is the way to relieve oneself from the past sins in order to make way of liberation. Vaisheshika philosophy says the universe is reducible to a finite number of atoms, Brahman being the fundamental force causing consciousness in these atoms. So atoms first, then consciousness comes into atoms. Purva Mimamsa says, believes in the ritual part, karma, kanda. It says human being can retain salvation only by acting in conformity with the principles of Vedas, all the karma part, all the ritual part. Uttara is Vedanta. Okay, the world, Brahma Satyam Jagat Nitya, Jivo Brahmaivana Para. The world is unreal and the only reality is Brahman. We saw in few minutes about the diverse theories of creation, the diverse schools of philosophy, the world of scholars or the world of intellectuals or the world of spoiled human being mind would not even leave Swami incarnation. What all has been spoken about Swami during his life and even after he chose to leave us. when a lot of cash was found in the Yajur Mandir. What all, what all it is said, no, don't quote me because it is not authentic. It is said that Christian schools from Tamil Nadu, they were into all this spreading of news so as to reduce the number of followers of Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Ultimately, what happened? Nothing. So even Krishna, what all Krishna was abused by Duryodhana, by Jarasandha, by how many people, what all abuses Krishna had to take in. The world would not even leave the avatars, incarnations, such diverse tons of abuses. What do we do? What does it mean when Janaka says, using the pierces of knowledge of the truth from the innermost recesses of my heart, I have realized the truth. Creation of the universe. My master has taught me one thing which I am holding on to. If this creation appears to be Nijam, not Satyam, to be Nijam, apparently existing, then the cause for this creation should have definitely existed prior to this creation, which cannot be the effect of any previous cause. If I hold on to this one truth given to me by my master, then the creator cannot sprout from the navel. The creator cannot be realized by mind body. The creator cannot be any part of the matter, because from him or from that emerged the five elements. So even if I am not able to experience that essence, but I am convinced at the Mananam stage that it has nothing to do with anything in this matter created. My body, mind, intellect is matter. The body, mind, intellect of all the human beings is matter. Even the Acharya, whatever he's roaring, the speech part is from the matter. I have to go beyond all these things, and na anyat kinchana mishate, nothing else can be there. That essence where I have to necessarily transcend by BMI, transcend the BMI of all things in this creation, all beings in this creation, go beyond all forms in this creation, and to keep contemplating on one essence, causeless cause, which existed prior to creation. Let the D-Day come this birth or next birth or after 10 births. I am not going to leave my Nididhyasana. Exactly, as far as the philosophies, my identity must be beyond all logic and rational thoughts, Nyaya, beyond the duality of Purusha and Prakriti, Sankhya, beyond the body and mind, Yoga, beyond all atoms, Vaisheshika, beyond the rituals and mantras, Purva Mimamsa. न मंत्रो न तीर्थम न वेदा न यज्ञ चिदानंद रूपः शिवोहम शिवोहम. Beyond all these, I am I. Again, this is possible only when I reach to that inner experience. Coming to Swami, let the world say anything about my Bhagavan. I am not here to take up the black coat and act as an advocate, debating and arguing about to prove Swami's existence as avatar. Never will I do that. For me, whether the world garlands Swami, whether on one day the entire universe flocks to Puttaparthi and the rush starts from the Sai Kulwant Hall and reaches up to the Bangalore airport, or the entire world tarnishes and and kills the image and tries to attempts to spoil the image of my Bhagavan, I am not concerned. For me, if at all I was blessed for a darshan, and if I was more blessed for a sparshan, and if I was most blessed for a sambhashan, then to me what matters is what was my inner state when Swami came and stood in front of me. If that Sai is not Brahman, I would not have got that experience, which at that point I could not substantiate that that was my experience of self, but with thunderous scores, plethora of discourses of my Acharya, yes, I am convinced I was one to one with self at that momentless moment when Avatar came and stood in front of me. Only Brahman can give me the experience of self. I don't need to get into any other explanations or arguments or debates. Only in the silence, voice of God can be heard. This part got added at 5:45 a.m. today. As a disciple, one goes through various knowledge, various treatises, various philosophies, Puranas, etc. None of them is of lesser importance. However, all of them by themselves or each one of them by itself cannot take sadhaka to the other side of the shore. A drive from Bangalore to Puttaparthi, the highway, the smaller streets, all have to be passed through for reaching the mandir. His memory doesn't fail him. This was taken in Kenopanishad discourse way back 8 years before, not the latest one. But all may be different, the paths may be different. The AP highway was so broad and I could drive at 100. And then when I took the turn, I had to limit my speed. I was passing through the villages. There, each time the restaurant where I had my coffee was different. Everything is different, but my goal is one: to reach, to sit in Sai Kulwant Hall and merge with my Lord. As long as I am lost or anyone is lost in debating or discussing about the quality of the roads, the quality of each restaurant, Udupi was better, or this thing was better, or this was better, this, that, about the communication of the driver, about the quality of the car, so on and so forth, you are never going to reach the goal. You are never going to experience Swami. Because all these things will be running in your mind, even seated in the Sanctum Sanctorum cycle. Exactly in the same manner, one must ultimately get into intense nididhyasana on one essence, Brahman. In the nididhyasana, logics are not there. In the nididhyasana, the discussions on the four Mahavakyas are not there. In the nididhyasana, even the roar of Acharya is not there. In the nididhyasana, none of the discussions or none of the learning or none of the things about which I was convinced at Mananam stage, all have to be left behind. One essence, the Brahman. One essence, I. One goal, where everything has to be left behind. I take, like Ramana was asked, there are so many treaties, Guru, which one should I follow? Ramana said, you all are aware, the core sadhakas are almost aware what he is going to tell. Ramana said, do you use 10 mirrors for shaving? No, Guru. You use one mirror. Similarly, pick up one and take it into your heart and get into deep nididhyasana. You will arrive. You will realize the goal. Similarly, in my master had taught me in the Satyam Jnanam Anantam that I am beyond time, I am beyond space, I am beyond objects. Then he taught me I am beyond the names, I am beyond forms, and I am beyond objective awareness. And he took me through to that self in the Panchadashi session at the end of the meditation. And then he gave me the space meditation. And he gave me so many paths, so many meditation routes. If I pick up any one of them, just me, the real me, I am beyond time, beyond space, beyond objects. Till that, for example, take up this Indili Vidyasana. You go beyond one of these three, Deshakala Vastu, go beyond the time, you will realize the self. You go beyond the space, you realize. Go beyond the Vastu objects, you will go one to one with the divinity. In the normal frame of mind, being within the limitation of time space objects, names, and forms, one would never be able to contemplate on this. This is the relevance, importance of the Guru Shishya Parampara of getting the knowledge from a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Acharya. One cannot jump on one's own shoulders, roared Shivananda Maharaj. Being in within the realm of time space object, being bound by names and names and forms, how can you ever transcend time space object name form? How is it possible? You have to catch one secret, one of the discourses, one essence given by the Guru, hold on to it till the end. Never mind if you are not able to realize what is there. You are going to come back with such the more sattvic vasanas, the more sattvic tendency. Your rajas and tamas would have gone with your association with the acharya for 10, 20, 30 years. In this birth, come again. Come again. What is the issue? Sattvic, Adi Shankara or Ramana would have come with such a level of heights of sattvic Shubhavasanas, they attained realization at such young age. What is, why you cannot believe that you will also attain? Your only duty is to take up Shavana Manana Nidhyasana as per the master's teachings, whom you believe, whom the core of your heart believes that here is the one. It may not be him, it may be anyone. Shveta Ashvatara Upanishad says towards the end, chapter 6, verse 22 says, the English translation, the profound mystery in the Vedanta was taught in the previous cycle. It should not be given to one whose passions have not been subdued, or to the one who is not a son or a disciple. The Upanishads teach the profound secret that is knowledge of Brahman, which shows the way to final liberation. The sacred knowledge was to be imparted only to them whose minds are under control, or to one's son, or to one true disciple who has endowed the the wealth, sampatti of sadhana chatushtaya. And then, by whose grace and in which state of mind one can realize this one truth. The last 23rd mantra says, Yasya deve para bhakti yata deve tatha guru kasyaite kathita yarta prakashante mahatmana prakashante mahatmana. If these truths have been told to a high-minded person who feels the highest devotion for God and for his Guru, then they will surely shine forth as inner experiences. Then indeed, Prakashante Mahatmana is repeated twice. Then indeed, they will shine forth. The Upanishad teachings taught by a guru bear fruit only for those aspirants who cherish devotion to the Lord and the teacher. It is God who teaches the disciple through an illumined Acharya in human form. Upanishad is saying, not the one who is talking to you. Any guru Okay, where the heart says, here is the one. As a man whose clothes are under fire wants nothing but soaking himself in water, or a hungry man wants nothing but a morsel of food. So, a noble minded aspirant, afflicted with the miseries of phenomenal existence, Moksha Gita chapter, tormented, tarnished, how the Shishya approaches the Guru and cries and falls at the Master's feet, seeks nothing but the grace of the Guru, without which the knowledge of Brahman is indeed difficult to obtain. And how I could pierce through after post realization, the sadhaka turned seer asks himself or herself, oh my, how could I pierce through various paths, various knowledge, diverse opinion, diverse arguments? How could this happen? When I look back, how could I be one to one with self? How could I experience that essence which I may not even refer to as Atman or Brahman or self or consciousness? Beyond all the nomenclature, beyond everything, how could I experience that when it was utmost clear to me that it is that essence? Because I I can look into the eyes of my Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai and say, yes, Bhagavan, or speak to my Guru and say, yes, Guru, there was no mind, there was no intellect, there were no senses, there was no theory which was going, there was neither you, there was neither me. There was nothing, nothing at all, but still one essence. One essence. And when I got up and then I validated that one essence, it got validated and it stood the test of your 11 years of discourse. Perfectly it got validated. How this happened? Prashnopanishad and one more Upanishad answers this question, where the sadhaka turned seer, the mumukshu turned realized self, prostrates profusely to his master or her master and says, Tvam hinaf pita yosmakam avidyaya param param taraya seti. Oh Guru, oh Master, Namo Namaste Guruve Mahatmane Viveka Chudamani. Thou art my Father, thou art our Father collectively who helps us to go across Taraya city, across the ocean of our thick avidyaya param thick ignorance, forest of ignorance. How could I have crossed this forest of ignorance? And Prakashante Mahatmane, how could I experience that luminous consciousness within me without thy grace? In his case, Satya Sai chose to be his Guru and God. his body should perish. His body should be burned to ashes at that very moment when he loses sight of Bhagavan as his Bhagavan in the path of devotion which he followed from the 1975 up to 2008, and then as his Sadguru from 2008 to 2010, his body must go beneath this earth and perish at that moment. Nothing less punishment should happen to him when he loses sight of his God, his Guru, Sadguru Bhagavan, Sri Satya Sai Baba. And 1,000 times he goes and sits in the Sai Kulwant hall. Swami as Bhagavan, Swami as Sadguru, and Swami as the formless essence beyond the Guru and God, wholly, abundantly, unlimited, he proves his existence to. Now, where are the adverse thorns of opinions? Where is diversity? Where is debate? Where is argument? Where is doubt? Aham vikalpo nirakara rupa vibhutyatya sarvendra sarvatra sarvendriyana न च संगत नैव मुक्ते न मेया चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् A poem read in the 8th standard, read as You are not to question why, you are not to reason why, you are, but you are not, but to do and die. This was the instruction for the soldiers fighting. For a sadhaka, it is not about death. There should be nisandeha. There should be no doubt in my master's words that I am Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. And there should be no doubt in my mind that whether this birth or next birth or next birth, whether I will realize that I am Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. One, this doubt pulls you back to a stage before sadhana chatushtaya because your mumukshatva is under test if you doubt. I am that at the mananam stage, signed, sealed, delivered, finished. Rest, one birth, 10 birth, 100 births, nididhyasana, Brahman. I am I. Hundreds of births have been wasted, gone. It is proved, it is a proven uh, truth, fact, not truth, proven fact, because if I had not wasted my thousands of birth, I would not have been filled with so much vasanas till the time I came to my Guru's feet. And even now, maybe I'm still carrying on some vasanas. My vasanas, my sanskaras are the proof that I have wasted thousands of birth. What big deal? 10 more births, 5 more births, 2 more births, 1 more birth. What big deal? You are but to do and die. You are but to engage in the nididhyasana, relentless nididhyasana. I am that. Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupa. No room for doubt at all. And if you are not able to reach to this level of conviction, again go back, pray to God and Guru, give me, मुझे शक्ति दो मेरे साई शिवा, मुझे भक्ति दो मेरे साई शिवा. Example, sitting before you, he developed his Shraddha, and the Master Sadguru and God gave that strength to him. For that, what is required at physical level, if you are not able to reach to that conviction, absolute surrender. That thing, surely he can look into Swami's eyes. That absolute surrender was there. Then, like Krishna took over as a savior of Draupadi, Swami walked in and caught hold of his hand, and then Swami took him. 10, 20, 25 years of learning Shavana Manana Nididhyasana under Guru Shishya Parampara, under the watchful eyes of a master, was all, like Swami says, cancer cancel. Swami did the miracle in 4 months. What is required for that? Conviction beyond doubt and surrender. Swami often sings a Telugu poem before his speech. It starts with Pattana Pattu, something like that it goes. Swami says that having been clear what you want, don't leave God till you get it from Him. I want realization of my true identity, self. I will not leave. You get down 1 ounce, one iota down from that conviction, the world will swallow you. Samsara will hold you in its clutches. 1 second you lose the sight. Never lose that sight. At least the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of you, never lose that sight. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Sai Ram. The first Ashtavakra Gita satsang from this sacred land, Muscat. As someone's father said while going to a Shiva temple, that one would also listen to this satsang and that one was going to smile. His father said, "Who said this is Mathura? This is Krishna's Mathura." Such is the sacred soil of, such is the sacredness of this country. If you don't realize self while being in Muscat, it will be difficult elsewhere. Not impossible, but difficult. जो कल करे सो आज, जो आज करे सो अब. Okay, now, given moment is now, not a minute later. Jai Sai Ram.